What's going on, guys? This is Doug with the McCurdy Outdoors channel. So I thought today we'd do a quick overview and review of my 2019 RZR XP Turbo S. And I've got just over 500 miles, and I thought I'd give you my thoughts since purchase. So if you follow the channel for any period of time, you know I've pretty much had this. I've had the Turbo S in pretty much every condition except for real deep mud. Majority of the riding has been just dirt trails, dirt roads, and a ton of snow. And right off the bat, I want to say it's comparing it to my 18 XP Turbo 64-inch, it's a night and day difference, both with handling, steering assist, suspension. Power-wise, it's about the same, if not a tad bit slower, or not as, I guess, peppy as the normal turbo. But it makes up for it in stability, suspension, and basically the electronics. I'm not a huge fan of Ride Command. I think they could be doing a heck of a lot better job implementing maps, trails, and I think it's very user-friendly, but as far as accuracy, and I guess it just comes down to accuracy. A lot of the trails I run, especially out in the Wahis, they're just not on the map. And a few trails up ahead. We're on Harris Creek Road, right out of Horseshoe Bend, heading towards Placerville, Idaho City area. And maybe I'll go over that here in a little bit, but I think the Ride Command system could be improved. Suspension, the shocks are amazing. I love the 3-position firm, comfort, and sport. I seem to run a lot in comfort and sport. Firm it feels really, really firm, that's for sure. So maybe if you're all out racing or you're jumping, that's probably what you'd run, but it's pretty harsh. Overall though, the cockpit design, I do like the new dash that they took from the General. I think all the new 19 and up models have the gauges up front. That was one of my biggest gripes with the XVT, with the digital display in the center. I do like the information that the infotainment center provides, and I think it's a decent size. It's not too small, it's not too big, but you can monitor just about everything. I do like the new cubby and how it latches better and it can't just fall down like the regular turbo did. The one gripe I do have with the cockpit is that small space right there. I think that should just be kind of like in an X3, a top lid, kind of like an automotive style like most trucks have nowadays, where they have the glove box down and then a top glove box up top. So Polaris, if you're listening, that's what I'd like to see. The seats, I've heard that the Pro XP has better seats. I've sat in one, it felt comfortable, but I haven't driven one extensively to know if I'd like them or not. But seats are another big thing that I think that Polaris need to get on top of. Get a better seat. Doesn't have to be a suspension seat, but get a more comfortable seat. The 4-point harness, surprisingly, I really like them. They're comfortable. They're not retractable, which is kind of a bummer. But I think with a Turbo S, I think you should be getting click 6s in them. Tires, honestly, I thought I'd run the Coyotes and just see how well they do, and thus far they've impressed me. I know if you follow the channel, I've gotten this thing stuck many times already. But the Coyote is a good overall tire, and with 500-600 miles on them, they haven't really worn down all that much. I expect 1,000-1,500 miles out of them minimum. The 15-inch wheel is great, although I think it should be a beadlock coming from the factory. I've seen multiple videos where people are pulling a rear tire off the bead. I know in my experience, Brandon threw one of his rear tires off. But most people change the wheels and tires anyway, so it's not too big of a deal. I'm currently looking for some 15-inch beadlocks, but I'm looking for a 6.1. And I've been eyeing the STIs. They say they're, 5 millimeters wider on each side per wheel. So you'd be 10 millimeters wider than stock. That's pretty dang close. But I think that's just a bigger gripe for wheel makers. I think more aftermarket wheel makers should offer an aftermarket size. As far as the bed's exactly the same as a 19 turbo. The only difference is the extra bar that's going down. But as far as the size and the capacity and what you can fit in there and how much weight, it's the exact same. So no real big gripes there. I like the RZR over the XP because of that bed space. I could put a heck of a lot of tools, a heck of a lot of recovery gear, whereas it seems like an X3 struggles with, I guess, gear capacity. Clutching has felt alright. I did burn up a belt. That was a Gates belt. And I did do somewhat of a break-in on it, but I burnt the sides of the belt and it was pretty much toast. I haven't had any issues since. But it's not really fair to criticize the clutching simply because the standard is set for pretty much 0 feet or sea level. Most times we're above 5,000 feet. So a clutch kit for engagement, shifting, change out the weights and springs are always going to be a better option, and that's something I'm looking into right now. As far as the four-wheel drive system, got a bigger diff up front, haven't had any issues, hasn't had a leak, axles are tight, so no real issues up there. And overall, I think it's a very confident machine. You can drive it hard. You're a heck of a lot more stable than a normal turbo. I do think that in the near future, Polaris is going to have to come out with another motor. I know they tuned up this one and put it in the Pro for 181 horsepower, but they're going to have to go to a 3-cylinder if they want to compete with Can-Am. Because right now, Can-Am power-wise, and yeah, Mike, I'm going to say it if you're watching, power-wise, they're not really comparable right now. A stock X3 is going to beat a Turbo S. It's going to beat a Pro XP. It's just, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. What I think the Polaris has over the X3 is suspension. Especially if you put a little bit of money into your suspension, whether you're going to revalve or do a spring kit. The springs are basically the weakest link, I think, on this entire car. I think springs are where Polaris does a lot of money saving, not doing a true dual rate. Not sure why they don't. It obviously makes iBrack, Shock Therapy, RT Pro a lot of money, so maybe that has to do with it. Who knows? But, excuse me. Going forward, I'd like to see a true dual rate spring in the front and rear. And other than that, there's a lot of components on this thing that are just beefed up. The axles, the A-arms, the tie rods, the drivetrain, everything just has beef on this car. Where a lot of people will buy a turbo and they'll immediately, you know, throw a couple grand just in the suspension components, not even including springs and shocks, just to replace arms, tie rods, knuckles, you name it. It's bigger on this machine. The braking on here has been really good. Like I said, it's very, very confident, inspiring vehicle. You can get sideways real easy, like on any of these corners. I'm not really pushing the machine that hard, simply because I'm talking and it's hard to drive fast while you're talking. But it's very easy in two-wheel drive just to have that rear end kick up. And with a 72-inch stance, which I've measured this machine, and I just did shock therapy springs, and it's brought it into about 73 and a half, but stock is right at 74, which I don't know where Polaris is getting those measurements. Maybe it's outside wheel to outside wheel instead of outside tire to outside tire, but who knows? So overall, would I recommend this vehicle after 500 miles? Absolutely. I love this thing. I'm glad I traded in. I'm glad I had an opportunity to when they had a good sale on a leftover 19. If you're in the market, I mean, it's hard to recommend things to people when you don't know them, you don't know their driving style, you don't know their budget, you don't know where they ride. And for a long time I was in the mindset of, well, I don't want a 72-inch machine because I'm not going to fit anywhere. And then I really started thinking about it. Most of the trails in Idaho, you're going to be out in the desert where there's a lot of Jeep trails and a lot of trails you can get away with being a lot wider and it's a lot safer. Or when you're in the mountains, a vast majority of trails are basically main roads like you see right here, fire roads, or destination roads. And I mean, obviously there's not a width restriction here, but if you're on the fence, especially in Idaho, about going to a 72 from a 64, I don't see a drawback. There's no 64-inch trails, and if you're worried about like true trails, you should be looking at a 50-inch. And honestly, if I were to go to a 50-inch, it'd be in a four-wheeler format, because the trail model RZRs, they ride like crap, they're slow, and they're very tippy. And I'm not bashing on anybody that has one. That's just my personal thoughts. I've driven one. I didn't like it. It's not sporty enough for me. It's almost like driving a Ranger. And that's probably not fair. Like, it's obviously better than a Ranger. Anything's better than a Ranger, right? Just kidding, just kidding. So anyways, I'd highly recommend it. If this is a big hobby and you like doing this, and you're going to take it out a lot, and you're going to actually use the machine, and you want it to work well out of the box, this is the machine for you. Anyway, guys, I want to say thanks for watching. This has been Doug with McCurdy Outdoors, and I'll catch you on the next ride. But don't forget, the adventure waits. Take care, everybody.